Hey everyone, so this is my review of Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 4, called Ahimsa. And essentially what this episode is about is that Alex asks Lena and Brainy to team up to help out Supergirl. And while that's going on, John sort of figures out a new way to help his fellow aliens once he teams up with a new friend called Manchester Black. And this was a really interesting and good episode that definitely went in different directions than I was expecting it to go. But it did do a good job of sort of cleaning up a lot of the stuff that has happened in the previous episodes. And I enjoyed the bits in this episode that did revolve around Supergirl and her being in this new suit and stuff. But it did feel really kind of odd with how dedicated and how eager she was to jump right back into fighting and stuff. Where we've seen her suffer damages and stuff in the past and her being like willing to be like, okay, I'll step back and relax a bit until things start to clean up a bit. Where in this one she was willing to like break all the rules and do all this different stuff to just get back in the mood of fighting and stuff, and that felt really odd and kind of out of character in my opinion. And that really kind of bugged me with how much she was willing to do this, even though everyone kept stepping in to say like, hey, you can't, because if you do, you're gonna break your suit and possibly die from kryptonite poisoning. And it like seemed like that wasn't sinking into her head, and that really kind of bugged me. And it also bugged me how Alex was getting all this influence and stuff by people saying like, hey, you need to get Supergirl to step aside until things are cleared up and stuff. But she like didn't tell Kara that, didn't tell Kara like, hey, the president's telling me to tell you to step back or stuff like that. She just kept saying like, no, you need to do this. And it's just because I tell you to and stuff. So that also kind of confused me, but still it was cool and interesting to see how Kara sort of fought in this weird suit. And like how she like couldn't really use her powers besides like flight and strength. But still she managed to use those two powers to help her to fight. And that was interesting to see there. Then everything with Alex was interesting, with her sort of dealing with all the repercussions of being the head of the DEO and like what sort of pressures and stuff that puts her under, especially when bad things happen. And sort of how she dealt with that and how everyone else sort of helped her by the end of this episode was interesting to see. Then everything with Lena and Brainy was fun, with them sort of creating this device to take all the kryptonite out of the atmosphere and stuff. And that was very interesting to see how all that worked out, and then their two conversations of how to deal with stress and stuff like that was interesting to see how Brainy perceived things and how Lena perceived things. Then what Lockwood's main plan was and what Mercy and her brother were planning and stuff was interesting, with them doing like these somewhat of planned attacks by aliens to make aliens seem like this bigger threat and stuff. It was interesting with how it was done and how it was perceived and all that different stuff, and I really kind of enjoyed it for that. But it also felt weird and kind of rushed, and that kind of bugged me, where it seemed like they were like, oh, these fights and stuff are gonna make everyone hate aliens, but I feel like no, it would just do stuff differently, where it'd be like, oh, these one bad aliens are here, but we still have Supergirl and stuff who are good aliens. So I feel like it wouldn't change people's opinions either way with these random alien attacks, because random aliens have always been attacking. So that bugged me, how their plan was thought out and worked out, but it just didn't feel like it was thoroughly thought out. Then everything with Manchester Black and John was really great, and I really enjoyed and loved it, with them sort of sharing a bit of stories back and forth, but then also somewhat of finding like this middle ground of not exactly like creating chaos, but helping to fight against chaos almost. And them doing all this different stuff to try and find Fiona, and sort of how they managed to work together and stuff, I really did enjoy. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in the episodes come, with how this episode ended for Manchester Black, and how Fiona told him to not create violence and not to do all this different stuff. But how this episode ended definitely didn't look like he was willing to listen to that, and that he's going to retaliate in anger and stuff, and I'm very interested to see how that's all going to work out for him. Then the little bits that we got to see with James and Nia were interesting, with again, I think they're kind of hinting at Nia's powers and stuff, with her bringing up how she feels that if James goes out and becomes Guardian again to help fight against these alien threats and stuff, that it's going to incite negative press for him and stuff. And he thought that was going to be like, oh yeah, they're going to bring the law and stuff against me, and they're going to possibly put me in jail and stuff. But then when he actually did step out as Guardian, it was interesting what negative repercussions actually showed up, which was that the sort of anti-alien side took him as a hero of their kind and not the hero that James necessarily wants to be. So that I'm very interested to see what's going to happen there, where James is going to have to go and admit how he truly feels, and to see how everyone sort of reacts to that. I'm very curious to see. And then, just overall, this was a really interesting and great episode that was so much fun to watch, and I'm very interested to see what they're going to do in the future with everything that happened in this episode. And so, yeah, that's my review of Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 4, called Ahimsa. So, yeah. Bye!